I am deeply grateful for the addresses of condolence by the House of Lords and the House of Commons, which so touchingly encompassed. It was supposed to be a celebration of tradition. Trooping the colour, the majestic, time-honored ritual that commemorates the British monarch's official birthday, has traditionally been a well-planned demonstration of unity, strength, and regal grandeur. The flags sailed high, the redcoats marched in unison, and the British populace assembled on the Mall, waving Union Jacks with the same pride as generations before them. But this year, amid the shine of sabers and the crash of drums, something unexpected occurred, something that no one could undo. The moment was modest, yet seismic. As the royal family gathered on the historic Buckingham Palace balcony, every camera lens focused on the king, fragile and poised, but visibly wearing the weight of an aged reign. And opposite him stood Princess Catherine, bright and determined, with Prince William by her side. However, when the fly-past soared over the throng and the national song played, King Charles stood back slightly and Catherine stepped forward. It wasn't an accident. Observers observed it right away, the planned repositioning, the knowing gaze, the silent transfer of symbolic authority. In that quick gesture, King Charles did something no one expected him to do. He gave the limelight to the future queen, not just in name, but also in person, a move that would cause shockwaves among royal insiders and global media outlets. Some referred to it as a succession soft launch. Others expressed a strong rejection of Camilla's position at the heart of the monarchy, because, while Catherine moved ahead, Queen Camilla stayed in the shadows. Her typical tight grin was gone, and as the event progressed, she became increasingly pale and distant, as if the weight of what had recently happened rested fully on her shoulders. Whispers immediately spread. Had she been sidelined on the biggest platform possible? Behind the royal walls, the atmosphere was strained. Some sources characterized Camilla's response as devastated, while others said she slumped emotionally once out of sight, enraged at what she viewed as a betrayal by the man she had stood alongside through decades of controversy and sacrifice. But the king had made his decision, not with words, but with a gesture, and the whole world witnessed it. It was no longer merely a military parade, it was a spiritual coronation. For Camilla, it marked the beginning of the end, because what happened that day during trooping, the color was not simply another royal occasion. It was a line in the sand, drawn in front of the world, a moment that said, without a doubt, Catherine is responsible for her own future. The day bore all the characteristics of a traditional royal celebration. Trooping the color is, after all, the most ceremonial occasion on the royal calendar, with flawless grandeur, thundering cavalry, and a tradition that dates back 2 centuries. However, this year's gathering had an unusual tension in the air. Even before the first drumbeat rang through Horse Guards parade, royal observers noticed an unusual excitement. Something felt strange. It started with the seating arrangements on the parade field, where Catherine was given a more prominent place than normal. While Camilla sat opposite King Charles in the open carriage, their attitudes were far from cordial. Catherine arrived with Prince William and their children, and although she was still recovering from recent health issues, she looked stunning. Her stance screamed loudly as she wore royal blue, composed, certain, regal. The main action, however, took place on the balcony rather than during the parade. As the royal family went out to greet the country, all eyes were drawn to one important detail, the arrangement. King Charles took his seat, but it was not centered. Instead, he turned slightly to the left, allowing Catherine and William to come into the center. And then, in the height of the fly-past, when all eyes were focused on that legendary lineup, Charles made his move. He stepped back, not entirely, not dramatically, but just enough. It was a tiny move that may have gone missed, if not for the hundreds of cameras focusing on every regal face. But once identified, the ramifications were evident. This was a signal. The royal pundits tried to decipher it. The royal palace staffers said it had been discussed in private royal briefings for weeks that Charles intended to prepare the nation for the eventual leadership transition. But no one, not even Camilla, anticipated it to happen there, and in public. Camilla had a nightmare occurring in real time. She stood a few feet away in the backdrop, her smile frozen. When she was finally positioned behind the king at such important ceremonies, she was out of frame in several of the broad photos released by media sources. One photograph, a close-up of Charles staring at Catherine while Camilla looked away, rapidly went viral with the caption, "The Queen and the Queen in Waiting." But the caption wasn't exactly correct, because for those who watched, Catherine was no longer merely the Queen in Waiting. She was already the Queen of Spirit. The internet erupted. Hashtags including #Sichua #Queen Catherine, #Chosin Trupping Shift, and #Chwas Camilla Out started trending on several platforms. Royal analysts appeared on morning shows around the world, describing the moment as a soft power handover and a calculated gesture of transition. Body language experts interpreted Charles' posture, gaze, and visible deference to Catherine as a deliberate decision to demonstrate the monarchy's future was already here. Perhaps most damningly for Camilla, no palace statement was released to reject the allegations. Instead, Clarence House kept silent, enabling the story to proliferate unchallenged. With each passing hour, it became evident that this was not a misunderstanding. This was the start of something new, and the end of Camilla's brief spell in the limelight. Insiders reportedly said that the Queen was noticeably disturbed during her balcony appearance. An assistant allegedly told a journalist off the record she kept saying, "Why didn't he warn me?" But Charles did not warn her. He did not need to, because this was more than simply an occasion. It was about history. It was about succession. The goal was to ensure the monarchy's longevity and love, with the world's focus shifting away from Charles and Camilla. But what about Catherine? The palace may have prepared a day of tradition and grandeur, but what happened was a royal recalibration in broad daylight. No public relations machine could reverse it. No amount of smiles could hide it. It was a moment the palace couldn't ignore, because it was never intended to be concealed. Trooping the Color 2025 was intended to be Queen Camilla's greatest achievement, a long-awaited public acknowledgement of her role as Queen Consort. Behind palace gates, she was said to have spent weeks preparing for the spotlight. According to sources, she selected her outfit weeks in preparation, worked with stylists to convey sovereign elegance, and even planned a soft media campaign to stress her unshakable loyalty to the crown during Charles' persistent health problems. Instead of reveling in grandeur, Camilla witnessed her royal status crumble in real time. According to many palace sources, Camilla expected this year's trooping to focus on her power and stability as Queen Consort, a message she apparently promoted behind the scenes. She also allegedly worked with select columnists to produce complimentary stories in the days following the catastrophe. This, in her thinking, was meant to be her tipping point, her chance to seal her legacy. But when the balcony moment arrived and Catherine stood front and center with William, Camilla remained off to the side. It was more than simply symbolic. Camilla perceived it as a personal betrayal. The modification was not discussed with her. According to royal aides who spoke on the condition of anonymity, Charles had kept it secret, knowing full well that any suggestion of lowering Camilla's prominence would precipitate a conflict. And the clash happened quickly and furiously. Once the royal family retired behind closed doors, she collapsed emotionally the moment they stepped back inside. A royal insider said, "She was both outraged and saddened. She continued wondering, why would he do this to me?" In front of everyone, witnesses said she was momentarily whisked away by her personal crew. Some said she was pale and trembling. Others recounted her reaction more dramatically. She tossed her gloves on the floor, claiming the king had made a fool of her in front of the entire world. Photos from the balcony quickly spread on the internet. Kate's poised figure dominated all major media outlets. The top pages had headings like, "A Queen's Grace," and "Future is Female," and "Her name is Catherine." Camilla was either cut out or pushed to the side, a phantom of her own expectations, and when the global story changed, so did the palace's internal calculations. Camilla had not realized how planned Charles's decision had been. Behind the scenes, rumors circulated that senior advisors had persuaded him to clear the runway for the next generation. The monarchy was at a crossroads, as popular support for William and Kate grew, particularly in light of Catherine's recent health fight. Camilla, who had spent decades gaining acceptance, was now viewed by some insiders as a relic of the past rather than a bridge to the future. And while she still had the title, power had already gone through her grasp. Her fall was neither physical nor emotional. It was institutional. She realized that the monarchy she sought to join was moving on without her. One royal servant stated it bluntly. Camilla believed this was her moment, but history had different intentions. While the cameras filmed Camilla's astonished stillness on the Buckingham Palace balcony, they also caught something much more profound. Princess Catherine, standing with serene strength behind her husband, was not merely smiling for the audience. She radiated something that no title can produce, the legitimacy of a people's queen. Her journey to the heart of the monarchy has been both methodical and gracious. There are no scandals, blunders, or animosity. Catherine has served as a symbol of modern monarchy for more than a decade, soliciting awe rather than demanding attention. This year, despite her health fight, public support remained strong. It grew, the nation united around her. The world admired her composure. And now, with the dramatic shift during Trooping the Color, it's clear the monarchy is already on her shoulders. According to insiders, courtiers have long seen Kate as the actual continuity figure in the royal family. While William will inherit the crown's title, Catherine will carry its essence. Her work on children's mental health, veterans, and early childhood development is not only altruistic, it is strategic. She's creating a meaningful monarchy, one act of service at a time. Camilla has never been able to fully manage her image. Catherine never has to seek attention, whether she's attending diplomatic events or soothing youngsters in hospital wards. It finds her not because she demands it, but because she exemplifies what the people expect from its royalty: elegance, humility, strength, and purpose. The distinction between Catherine and Camilla is more than simply popularity, it's also about credibility. Camilla's presence continues to split views. Her past, controversies, and difficult connection with Princess Diana's legacy left a lasting impression. And about Catherine, she represents both the past and the future. The public frequently comments on how Diana would be proud of Kate for carrying herself with the same composure and emotional intelligence, and Charles is fully aware of this. Those who have worked closely with the king believe he is well aware of the royal family's delicate position in modern Britain. His own reign is inherently transitory, and he understands that the monarchy must develop or risk becoming irrelevant. That's why the balcony gesture was important. By standing aside, even slightly, and allowing Catherine to step forward, Charles made a public admission. The monarchy is in better hands with her. Kate was not attempting to seize power. It was never necessary. Years of silent service, persistent dedication, and unwavering public support have led to this outcome. She did not beg for the crown. She just became the only person the people trusted to wear it. Even some inside the palace, many of whom previously questioned a commoner marrying into the firm, now acknowledge that Catherine represents the monarchy's greatest chance of survival. One royal aide described it perfectly. She is not only the future queen, She is already carrying the monarchy, and everybody knows it. The balcony scene just reaffirmed what millions of people already knew in their hearts. The crown may still be on Charles's head, but it is in Catherine's presence, and no amount of formality, titles, or antiquated hierarchy will change that. Trooping the Color 2025 was more than simply pomp for King Charles. It was also about controlling his legacy. Charles, a monarch long shrouded by scandal, tragedy, and popular suspicion, has spent most of his brief reign attempting to rewrite his own history. But with growing age and failing health, he realizes his time on the throne will be limited. He understands that his legacy will be determined by how he departs. That is why his choice to publicly promote Princess Catherine, while simultaneously sidelining Camilla, was not hasty. It was surgical. Multiple palace insiders have indicated that Charles has been meeting secretly with key advisors over the last year to discuss the monarchy's future path. One common sentiment emerged: Camilla is not the future. The public never fully welcomed her. Despite all of the rebranding, carefully edited interviews, soft-focus photos, and media efforts to soften her image, she remains a symbol of the monarchy's worst period. For many, she will always be the lady who succeeded Diana. And, no matter how much Charles cares for Camilla personally, he is aware of the implications for the crown. According to royal sources, his decision to step back on the balcony was not only motivated by health concerns, it was a planned decision, a symbolic power transfer that required Camilla to give up her place in the spotlight. Charles made it because he needed to. The monarchy cannot exist just on nostalgia. It must evolve. He eventually confessed to himself that Camilla is not part of that progression. The Queen Consort, once his closest confidant and political partner, is now outflanked by the system she battled to join. In public, Charles continues to grin with her. However, in private, there has been a change. Staff members note a distinct gap. One aide allegedly told a friend, "The king's not chilly, but he's determined. He knows the people would never love Camilla. They already admire Catherine. He's had enough of fighting the tide." Camilla's own mistakes haven't helped. In recent months, there has been growing concern over her family's use of royal authority, with quiet probes into whether titles and connections were being abused behind the scenes. While none of it resulted in a public scandal, the palace did not appreciate the optics. Neither did Charles. His rule, however brief, has one goal: to defend the institution. And that involves preparing it for a successful future, not simply surviving. That future belongs to William and Catherine, period. By publicly supporting Catherine at Trooping the Color, Charles effectively reset the monarchy's popular image. He put an end to notions that he was stuck in the past. He conveyed a strong message to the Commonwealth and the world: I see what you see, and I agree. Camilla may have felt betrayed. After decades of devotion, standing by his side in exile and restoration, she most certainly expected the crown to offer her long-term power. However, Charles never guaranteed permanency. He pledged collaboration, and when that union became a disadvantage for the crown's image, he chose the monarchy over his wife. Because Charles never saw this as merely about love or history, it was about legacy, and as he gazed down from that balcony at the thundering throng and the millions watching all across the world, he understood precisely what he was doing. He was passing on the future, not to Camilla, but for Catherine. Inside the palace, authority does not always change with ceremony. It moves with whispers, looks, and subtle partnerships. While the public was still reeling from King Charles's symbolic act on the balcony, something far more momentous was taking place behind the scenes. A tightening of ranks among the royals who now control the monarchy's future. At the center of this new axis are Prince William and Princess Anne, a couple formerly split by generation and temperament, but now brought together by purpose. The choice to elevate Catherine so overtly during Trooping the Color may have been Charles' trademark, but the impetus had been building for months, and it wasn't his alone. According to sources within the royal family, Princess Anne has never really embraced Camilla. Though she maintained public decorum, Anne secretly considered Camilla as an invader, someone who upset the family, violated tradition, and most significantly, lacked the tenacity and commitment needed of a queen. Anne, who has dedicated her life to service without fanfare, allegedly found Camilla's rising position at the heart of the monarchy difficult to bear. Then there's William, whose relationship with Camilla has become increasingly distant. Royal insiders describe it as polite at best and chilly at worst. Unlike his father, William is not emotionally attached to the past. His vision for the monarchy is future-oriented, efficient, and based on public trust. Camilla's presence is an unpredictable variable in that equation, one that does not belong. Privately, William has stated that his mother's legacy still influences his every move. Though he seldom talks of Diana in public, many close to him believe her principles influence his decisions. And Camilla's part in Diana's agony has never completely vanished from his mind. There is no open enmity, yet a quiet wall exists. He respects procedure, but he does not embrace her. So when Charles moved aside and Catherine went forward, Anne and William didn't simply watch. They agreed. According to a senior royal advisor, Anne and William were in sync before the occasion. Anne allegedly informed a trustworthy staff member, "It is time Catherine was seen, truly seen." This alliance has resulted in what some see as the new royal vanguard, a trio of influential figures, William, Catherine, and Anne. Together they signify tradition, modernism, and strength. Their unanimity represents a significant change in royal gravity, away from previous concessions and toward a future that appears stable, reasonable, and sympathetic to popular mood. And Camilla, she is no longer part of the inner ring. Even within the palace staff, loyalties have shifted. More people are thought to be identifying with William and Catherine, considering them as sources of long-term stability and clarity. With Anne's implicit backing, they are now considered the functional heads of the monarchy, even though the crown officially still sits on Charles' head. The days of Camilla strolling royal halls with assumed power are over. Behind those gates, doors close silently, one by one. Even though no formal titles have changed, everyone appears to grasp what's going on. The House of Windsor has moved on. It is closing ranks around the future, and Camilla is no longer a part of that circle. Camilla worked for decades to rebuild her story, from other woman to queen consort, from controversy to stability. She faced tabloids, rumors, and chilly eyes from a country that never completely forgave, and for a time it appeared she had won. She stood by the king, wearing the crown and waving from the balcony. She'd made it. But Trooping the Color 2025 broke the illusion. In one well-staged moment, with Charles moving aside and Catherine stepping forward, Camilla's journey was reduced to a shadow in the future. She was not pushed, but rather bypassed, not eliminated, but replaced, quietly, permanently, and in front of everyone. This was the monarchy speaking by stance rather than proclamations. Power did not change with words. It moved in response to our presence. Catherine's ascension was not explosive. It was delicate, elegant, and very unmissable. Camilla's importance eroded as a result of that grace. There will be no spectacular exiles. There is no public dethronement. Camilla's appearance, grin, and title will all remain unchanged, but the reality is now undeniable. The people have chosen their queen, and it is not Camilla. Charles, the ever-conflicted monarch, finally took action. Not for love, not for redemption, but for legacy. And in doing so, he acknowledged what the rest of the world had long known. Catherine is the rightful owner of the crown. Camilla sits at the brink of the royal family's embrace of the next generation. Still royal, but no longer central. Still named, but no longer necessary. A queen by name, but not in spirit. As a result, the lady who spent decades vying for the throne now finds herself watching history pass her by. Not with wrath, but with a calm, tragic awareness. She was never intended to be queen. She served as a placeholder until the real one arrived, and now she is the queen that never existed,